Last month, the Narendra Modi government appointed former Reserve Bank of India Governor Shaktikanta Das as Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, once again employing the 1980 batch IAS officer who retired from the service in 2017. Das served as the RBI governor for 6 years from 2018 to 2024, making him the second longest RBI governor in Indian history. Now he is set to serve as Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister until Modi's tenure ends in 2029. Das's appointment has once again brought to the fore a long-standing trend under the Modi regime, relying on a hand-picked group of retired officers to helm and anchor key policy and administration areas. These areas include foreign to economic policy, national security to ideologically significant religious and cultural government projects, and even deputation as the eyes and ears of the centre in states as governors, advisors, or even ministers. The trend, while evident since the first term of the Modi government, has only grown more prominent over the years. In May 2025, the government completed 11 years in power. In this time, some faces have indeed changed, albeit several key officers continuing in different positions since the first term remain, but the overall trend has not changed. 11 years into this government, it is amply clear that under the Modi regime, extensions and re-employments for select officers beyond retirement is hardly an aberration. First, let us look at the most trusted lieutenants of the Prime Minister. 1. P.K. Mishra. In 2014, when Modi moved from Gujarat to Delhi, over half a dozen officers from the state moved with him to the national capital. More than 10 years later, one of them, arguably Modi's most oldest lieutenant, P.K. Mishra, a 1972 batch IAS officer from the Gujarat cadre, remains the top officer in the Modi dispensation. In Gujarat, Mishra served briefly as the Principal Secretary to the CM until 2004, whereas in Delhi, he has been the PM's right-hand man for an uninterrupted 11 years. While Modi was still the Chief Minister in Gujarat, Mishra came to Delhi on central deputation, retiring as Union Agriculture Secretary in 2008. After returning to Gujarat, he was appointed the chairman of the Electricity Regulatory Commission for 5 years. In 2014, he came to Delhi with Modi as the additional Principal Secretary to the PM. Unlike his boss, Mishra enjoyed familiarity and a network in the corridors of the North Block, and that came handy for the Prime Minister, who was at the time still trying to make sense of Delhi. The additional Principal Secretary wielded enormous power as the officer in charge for all personnel matters, including appointments, transfers, and administrative reforms. An instance of the measures he conceptualized during this time is the controversial 360-degree evaluation for officers. However, in 2019, Mishra was elevated to the post of Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister, effectively becoming the sole power center in the PMO. PM's dependence on him is such that at the beginning of Modi's third term, Mishra's retirement was denied when he requested it on health grounds. Number 2. Ajit Doval. Doval is of course the National Security Advisor since 2014. In 2018, Doval, a retired officer of the Indian Police Service, became the de jure head of the national security architecture when the government amended the structure of the Strategic Policy Group, the first heir and nucleus of the National Security Council Secretariat, to make him the NSA head instead of Cabinet Secretary. Like the Cabinet Secretary, Doval was thus given the power to summon secretaries from any ministry to the SPG meeting, signalling a formal shift in India's national security decision-making from the Cabinet Secretariat to the NSCS. Until 2019, more than to the Home Minister, it was to Doval that the agency heads of the Intelligence Bureau, Research and Analysis Wing, and the National Technical Research Office, that is NTRO, reported regularly, a retired IPS officer told us. Doval was even involved in the key affairs of the CBI and the NIA. Even now, Doval's influence and power are far beyond the affairs of national security alone. As someone who founded the Vivekanand International Foundation, a right-of-center leaning think tank, before his NSA appointment, Doval has a deep and vast network within the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh and its affiliates across the country. Many of the government and the RSS's formal and informal outreach programs to Muslims, for instance, are known to be Doval's ideas. Even in the UPA government, retired IAS officers such as T.K. Nair, who was Manmohan Singh's principal secretary, and the then PM's NSA, Shiv Shankar Menon from the Indian Foreign Service, held the rank of ministers of state. So this is not new. However, in the case of the Modi government, Mishra and Doval hold the ranks of cabinet ministers, signaling an elevation in the role of the retired bureaucrats. Number 3. Shaktikanta Das. The latest to join this list of Modi's most trusted lieutenants, of course, is Shaktikanta Das, who was appointed as Principal Secretary 2 to the PM on account of Mishra's advancing age. Before his appointment to the PMO, Das served as the RBI Governor. An IAS officer of the 1980 batch, Das will serve in his current position until 2029. Now, for perspective, the senior-most batch of IAS officers who have not retired and are still serving as secretaries to the Government of India is 1987. It's not just the topmost officers alone. Since Modi government came to power in 2014, it has been amply clear that it is the PMO where key decisions become government policies. P.K. Mishra and his predecessor, Nipendra Mishra, have of course been the most prominent officers in the PMO. But other retired officers like former Cabinet Secretary P.K. Sinha, who was appointed as Principal Advisor to the PM, a post that was specifically created for him, have spearheaded the office over the years. Bhaskar Khulbe and Amarjit Sinha were also advisors to the PM, both retired IAS officers. Even now, it is retired IAS officers Amit Khare and Tarun Kapoor of the 1985 and 87 batch respectively who are serving as advisors in the PMO. Khare, remember, retired from the government as Education Secretary and has been known to be instrumental in the national education policy. He handles the social sector. Kapoor's domain is economic matters. Insiders also tell us that Rajiv Gauba, who is former cabinet secretary with the Modi government, will likely be roped in the PMO also in the coming days. Now, there is also the example of the Niti Aayog. BVR Subramaniam, an IAS officer of the 1988 batch, has been the chief executive officer of the Niti Aayog since February 2023. He was initially appointed the CEO for 2 years, with a 1-year extension given to him just last month. Subramanian, an officer of the Chhattisgarh cadre, was sent to Jammu and Kashmir in 2018 on interstate deputation, and he was serving as the state's chief secretary until 2021. It was in this period, remember, that the centre bifurcated the erstwhile state into 2 union territories and revoked Article 370, taking away the state's special status. Then there is also PC Modi, a retired Indian Revenue Service officer of the 1982 batch. PC Modi scored a hat-trick in 2021 when the Modi government gave him a 3rd extension as the chairperson of the Central Board of Direct Taxes, making him one of the longest-serving chairpersons of the board. Criticism marked his tenure, with the opposition saying that the department acted as an extended arm of the ruling party and put pressure on political opponents. Within a few months of his retirement the same year in 2021, Modi was appointed Secretary General of the Rajya Sabha, the first IRS officer to hold this position either in the upper or the lower house. In December last year, Modi received an extension in this role as well. The trend is not limited to the centre alone. Several retired officers who have worked with the PM at the centre or in Gujarat have been deputed to different states as advisors, governors or ministers, arguably as the PM's eyes and ears on the state administrations. A.K. Sharma. He is another officer besides Mishra who had come with Modi from Gujarat. The 1988 batch IAS officer A.K. Sharma served in Modi's CMO in Gujarat right from 2001 to 2014. When Modi came to Delhi, Sharma came with him. He joined him as a joint secretary in the PMO before he was elevated to the post of additional secretary in the PMO. In 2020, as the pandemic struck and the MSME sector came under strain, Sharma was deputed as the MSME secretary in a ministry that was then held by Nitin Gadkari. In 2021, Sharma surprised his peers in the civil service by taking voluntary retirement, but only to be sent to Uttar Pradesh, his home state. In UP, he subsequently became a Legislative Council member, that is an MLC. Even now, Sharma holds key portfolios in the Yogi government as a Minister of Urban Development and Energy. Hasmukh Adhia, a 1981 batch retired IAS officer of the Gujarat cadre, Adhia served as Principal Secretary to CM Modi in Gujarat from 2004 to 2006. In 2014, he came to Delhi as Finance Secretary, where he helmed the government's pet microfinancing schemes and the Mudra Yojana, besides overseeing the implementation of demonetization and the GST. In 2022, Adhia was appointed as advisor to Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel, where he emerged as a parallel power centre in Swarnim Sankul, that is the CM's office in Gandhinagar. In 2023, Adhia was appointed chairman of the Gift City Gandhinagar program. Last year, Adhia consolidated his power even more as he became the chief principal secretary to the Gujarat Chief Minister, inheriting the powerful legacy of Super CM K. Kailashnathn. Now, K. Kailashnathn himself, in 2013, when he superannuated as an IAS officer of the 1979 batch, he had served as the Chief Principal Secretary to the Gujarat Chief Minister for 11 years. This was a position created especially for him. As Modi moved to Delhi, power and media circles were rife with speculations that he would hold the same power position in New Delhi as he did in the Chief Minister's office in Gandhinagar. While Mishra was picked instead of Kailashnathn for the new role in Delhi, the latter emerged as the super CM of Gujarat. According to most insiders, he served as Modi's eyes and ears in his home state while he ruled from Delhi. From industry bigwigs to bureaucrats and even politicians, everyone in Gujarat knew that it is from K. Kailashnath's office that shots are called in the state. Last year, when his uninterrupted tenure of 11 years ended, Modi's long-term administrative and political troubleshooter was appointed as the LG of Puducherry. Then there's A.K. Bhalla. After a 4-year extension until 2024, A.K. Bhalla, a 1984 batch IAS officer of the Assam and Meghalaya cadre, became the second longest serving Home Secretary in the history of independent India with a tenure of nearly 5 years. He was appointed Home Secretary 15 days after the centre scrapped Jammu and Kashmir's special status and bifurcated it into 2 union territories. Months into Bhalla's tenure, protests over the CAA, that is the Citizenship Amendment Act, spread across large parts of India, with riots breaking out in Delhi. Through Bhalla's eventful tenure, he gained the unconditional confidence of the Home Minister, which became crystal clear with his December 2024 appointment as the Governor of Manipur, where violence has continued for nearly 2 years. Less than 2 months into his appointment, the President's rule was imposed in the state, thereby bringing it under the direct and official control of the centre. Now, let's look at some specific cultural projects. For an ideologically motivated government such as the Modi regime, religious, cultural and soft power related projects and events such as the inauguration of the Ram Temple or the G20 summit carry immense significance. The government in these too has relied on trusted retired IAS officers. There's of course Nitendra Mishra. In 2014, the Modi government amended the 1997 Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act, that is the TRAI Act, overnight to ensure that Nitendra Mishra, who served as its chairman, could be re-employed by the government. The act explicitly prohibited a chairman from government employment after serving as chairman. Mishra, an IAS officer of the 1967 batch who retired from service in 2004, was appointed as Principal Secretary to the PM, a post he retained until 2019. After he hung up his boots, the centre gave Mishra the mammoth task of effectively building the politically and ideologically crucial Ram Temple in Ayodhya as the chairperson of the construction committee under the Shri Ram Janmabhoomi Tirth Kshetra Trust. Meanwhile, Mishra also continues to hold the position of the chairman of the Prime Minister's Museum and Library, which has been overhauled and also renamed in the last few years. Then there is Amitabh Kant. As the G20 Sherpa, Kant, an IAS officer of the 1980 batch, was the face of all the deliberations and preparations that went into the G20 Leaders Summit hosted by India in 2023. An officer of the Kerala cadre, Kant had also served as the CEO of the Niti Aayog for 6 years from 2016 to 2022, a period during which the government think tank conceptualized and spearheaded a slew of government reforms. There's also Bhaskar Khulbe. Khulbe is another retired IAS officer of the 1983 batch who served in the PMO as the PM Secretary from 2016 to 2020. After his retirement, he was brought in as the advisor in the PMO for 2 years until 2022. The same year, the Uttarakhand government appointed him as the officer on special duty to look after the reconstruction works at Badrinath and Kedarnath shrines, signalling again the project's significance for the PM. Now, to be sure, the trend of appointing trusted retired officers in key ex officio positions or positions that do not fall within the formal governance framework like secretaries or joint secretaries is not new. Under the UPA government too, for instance, retired officers such as Pulak Chatterjee and T.K. Nair became advisors to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. It is also a trend that's widely found in states, from Avnish Awasthi, the chief advisor to Yogi Adityanath, to Alapan Bandyopadhyay, the chief advisor to Mamata Banerjee. CMs also are increasingly counting on trusted retired officers in ex officio positions, allowing them to run the show behind the scenes way beyond their retirement. But officers point out that it is the scale and frequency which have increased considerably under the Modi government. Yet, it is a matter on which there are opposing views. For some officers, the trend is symptomatic of a centralization of power within a small, impermeable circle of retired bureaucrats. For others, it is a subversion of rules. After all, government rules allow for extensions or re-employment of officers only under rare circumstances. But for others, it is only understandable and even necessary that an ideologically committed government such as that led by the BJP requires a committed bureaucracy that is willing to push reform. As a side note, while the idea of a committed bureaucracy has been much rebuked, it was actually leaders from the left who initially called for more partisan incumbents in the 1960s who would be willing to push social reform. So actually, the intellectual argument for greater politicization of the bureaucracy came from the left. That's all from me. Thanks for watching.